I am Tara. I will be your host today. Today we are featuring watercolorist Jeffrey Carter and his beautiful architectural whimsical structures. Just a few reminders before we kick things off today. Our free online demos typically run Sunday, Tuesday, and Fridays. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There'll be a subscribe button down below. Turn on your notifications so you stay up to date and alerted to everything that we're running on our YouTube channel. We will be sharing links throughout the demo for our mini workshop with Jeff, our live survey, and reference photo and supplies. So I'd like you all to welcome Jeff today. I'm going to turn everything over to him and we are going to have some fun. So meet Jeff. Say hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Well, welcome to my home on a bit of a grey spring day here in the UK. I've tried to make my dining room look a bit like a studio. So here's some of my kind of work that I've been working on for the last probably 3 or 4 years. I've been seriously working on watercolors. I particularly like going into the sunlight. So this is the type of thing that I'm more familiar with in terms of watercolor painting. But today is all about urban sketching. And I've been urban sketching for about a year. And I have to say, it's not really been an easy journey for me. And what I mean by that is that when I first started, I started to try to sketch subjects that were just too complex. I found it quite hard to look at an urban sketch, and if I saw a row of houses, not sketch the whole thing, which I felt was quite a challenge. The second thing I found quite challenging was perspective. And when I tried to get perspective right, and I would sketch out what I thought was a nice house or a building or something like that, and always the roof would look like it was slightly not straight, or the windows would go uphill when they're supposed to go downhill. So I came to the conclusion that actually what I needed to do was to find a new way to it. And probably after a glass of wine, albeit I'm not advocating alcohol as a solution to creativity, I thought, well, if getting perspective wrong was the biggest concern I had, then maybe if I started there and decided that actually if I get perspective completely wrong and let's see where it takes me, then it might start to make me enjoy it, help me enjoy this a lot more. So I'm going to show you some sketches now. Let me give you an example of some of my work. So can we go to the other camera? There we go. So this is an example of the type of thing I'm doing. So here's Moot Hall. It's a good old building in the middle of Keswick, which is a beautiful town in the UK. And here's my drawing. So I think what you can see is there's some quite big differences. I mean, what I've tried to achieve are 3 things. I've tried to achieve simplicity because, as you can see, this reference photo has quite a lot of buildings, that people walking around, that sort of thing. I've focused just on the building. I've tried to use perspective in a way that works for me. So I've distorted the building a little bit, and I've stretched the building a bit to give it a more dynamic composition. And then what I'm also trying to achieve is I'm trying to find a way of making it original. And producing a picture which doesn't look the same as this, but it's actually quite unique in its own way. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just the way in which I like to approach it. Here's another example, which is a building in Cornwall. It's the Cornish Delight store. It's a nice corner building, which I think always suits an urban sketch. And this is my drawing. So what you can see is quite a lot of stretching of perspective. I've kept it simple, so tried to block out some of the other buildings either side so that I can just focus in on the one that I'm looking for. And really just have some fun with it. I just started to play with some lines and see where these lines took me, to see if I could create a unique drawing, but one which has got some fun and some energy about it. And the thing that really changed for me when I started to produce this kind of drawing is the response on social media, which became quite funny. I mean, people sending me pictures, sending me comments saying, I love the I love the drawing showing about the earthquake and that type of thing, which I found really good fun to read. Here's another example. This is a photo taken by Courtney Evans, who kindly gave me permission to use the picture. And you can see here what I've also tried to do is go simple. So take out a lot of the background. I've stretched this one quite a bit, which is really where the fun is, because, and I'll try and demonstrate that in just a few moments. But when I start to stretch things around, I find myself smiling at the different options that you can create. The building's stretched out a bit to give it a bit more of a dynamic composition. And I've cheated a bit. I'm not very good at drawing railings, so the way I get around that is to make the bush an awful lot bigger so that the railings get lost in the process. And then this crazy, some crazy TV aerials and stuff, which just make it good fun, really. The last one I'll show you is this one. It's another kind of street corner in Cornwall. Lovely bookshop, this one, really beautiful place. And this is my drawing. So again, I hope you can see that what I'm doing here is I'm starting with the original sketch. I'm looking at ways in which I can keep the integrity of the building. That's really important to me. I'm not trying to make this building funny. I'm trying to bring a difference to it, but to keep the integrity of the building in place. So I tend to use the colors which are authentic to the building, but at the same time, I'm looking at just stretching things and moving lines around to give myself a bit more of a view. So I hope that gives you a sense of the kind of things that I'm doing. You can find a lot of work, or many examples of my work on my Instagram account. So feel free to look me up on Instagram, which is Jeff's Watercolor, and you'll see many examples of the type of thing I've been doing. This is what we're going to be doing today. So it's a photograph that was taken by Picture Apprentice. It's she's kindly given me permission to use the photograph, and it's a lovely pub in Bury St Edmunds, which is a very pretty town in the UK. And this particular pub is the smallest. It's got quite a good backstory, actually. It's the smallest pub in Britain. So inside here, this measures just 15 feet by 7 feet. So it's a tiny building, albeit I think you can see in this picture. It's a lovely picture of the pub, and it's got some real character to this place. Now, the first point I'm making here is how do I get to something that looks quite simple? And I don't know whether this helps to show the way in which I would view that. So I'm trying to see things as just the key building, and to try and push out some of the noise that's going on around it, so that I'm focusing in my style. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just my style. I'm trying to focus just on the main building itself, and to try and give it some authenticity, but also dare I say, a bit of attitude. What you can see here is this particular building. The perspective lines are going to be facing this way, because the photo has been taken probably about that kind of height. So the building is going to focus up. And what I'm going to be trying to do now is to demonstrate how I would take that building and then turn it into something which looks a bit different. This is the drawing that we're going to be doing. So what you can kind of see is how the perspective changed. I really like this lamppost. You'll find in a lot of my drawings, I like to include some kind of foreground interest. So here there's a lamppost which I really like. I really don't like this tree here. So I'm going to sketch this out now. And if you've got any questions at all as we go through, then please ask. And I know Tara is going to feed those over to me, and I will gladly answer anything that you ask me. What I will say is this is the first time I've ever done anything like this before. So I'm feeling a little nervous at the moment, but we're going to give it a go, and we're going to hopefully have some fun drawing this building. And be prepared. I might ask you one or two questions as we go through that you can get the chance of winning a prize. Right. So I'm working on a piece of paper which is 12 by 9. It's 300-gram watercolor paper. I find personally that I struggle with a sketchbook because, as you'll see later, when I start to draw, I'm moving my page around quite a bit. So what I find is that single sheets work better for me, and it's just a personal thing. I always sketch with a fairly hard pencil, and the reason for that is I'm trying to get some shape into the way in which the building will look, and then choose the best line to then develop from there. So let's give it a go. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to really stretch this building out at the top, because this is the smallest pub in Britain, but actually I think it's going to be punching much more above its weight. So I want to give the building a sense of being very small, but also a sense of really pushing out into the world. So so let's start. So I'm going to start drawing away, and anything you'd like to ask, just feel free to do that. So anyway, let's start with the basic shape. So I think
You've already received compliments on how your structures are Tim Burton-esque.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
But in a cheerful Burton way.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So, I mean, this is the basic structure of the building. It's going to be quite straight. These lines are quite fine. I deliberately do that because what I like to do is then develop what the line will look like. So if this is the building, then let's start to stretch these lines a bit further out to give it a bit of attitude. That's all automatically starting to close up this space here. So we'll bring the other line in, which is the other side of this building. We'll bring that in something like this as well, which starts to then give us some shape. And I'm already starting to play with the rules of perspective. I find the rules of perspective not very forgiving. If you get it wrong, you get it very wrong. But if you're starting to create a building which is out of line, then it gives you a lot more freedom with the inside, the windows and the kind of shape of the building to actually start to really open things up. So that roof line is going to go up here like this, and it's going to come down here like this, and then I'm going to deliberately pull this one that way to give that some real tight perspective. Now straight away I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, it's okay, but it's not interesting enough for me. So I think I'll probably bring it slightly further over and bring it in a little tighter down here to give the feeling that the building is really jumping out of the earth. And then somewhere over here, we'll have that nice lamppost I like, and we'll put that over here somewhere. So this is the basic shape of the building. I like this this roof line. So I'm going to be exaggerating that a little bit to give that a bit more attitude. So we'll bring that down here. Then I think I've got a kind of a center line here, which is going to be through here. But as I've stretched it this way, that's not going to be a straight line. So I'm going to give myself a couple of guidelines here. And that guideline is simply telling me where the central part of that building is going to be. I quite like that. That's quite nice. This is always my favorite part, actually, because this is the part where you're starting with this plain sheet of paper and you're then starting to work out possibilities and options and all those kind of things which help to really, for me, make it so much more enjoyable. The next thing I'm going to do is have a look.
That's the area that usually frustrates people because they need to remember to give themselves permission to have these little changes. And if it doesn't typically look like the image that they're working from, it tends to frustrate them. So it's great that you're explaining that and giving them the permission to make the changes that make them more comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I find originally when I was urban sketching, I was so worried about, is that window straight or is that door straight, that I wasn't really enjoying it very much. But in this particular style, just the way I found for myself, when the building is this far out, then actually you can start to have some fun with some of the other parts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give myself some guidelines, because these windows, the good thing with architecture, of course, is the windows will always follow straight lines to an extent. So I'm going to give myself some guidelines. And if you're drawing along with me, then please feel free to post your image afterwards and tag me, because I'd love to see what people are creating. So this is just the top and bottom of the window. I'm going to take another line here, which is the top of the second group of windows, and just bring that down, and that's going to end about there. And then what we'll do is we'll just following these kind of slightly crazy lines I've created, we'll bring a guideline in for each of the windows like this. So 2 windows on that side and 1 on this side. Because the danger of enjoying this too much is you suddenly go into like a bit of a trance and you realize that there was a window that you've completely forgotten, or you've added extra in. You know, I've done that many times. So this gives me the shape of the top of the building. So in the bottom part of the building, I think now what this is starting to create is this quite sharp dynamic, which I love, this kind of V shape. And what I'm now going to do is do the front part of this kind of entrance to the pub. So if I then take this, really like this curve that's in the building here. It's not like a square front. It's got a lovely curve to it, this building. And then into here. So that's now created this kind of top line. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll do the same thing down here, which will give me that bottom line. No, I don't know whether this is quite right yet, but we can work with it as we go. So
we do have a question about your process.
Yeah, go for it.
When between sketching and painting, do you erase before you paint?
When I paint, I tend to leave the pencil marks there all the time, so they're there permanently. However, when I sketch, and you'll see it in a moment, I'm going to go over this with a ink pen, and then I'm going to take all of that out afterwards. And that's actually it's a little magic moment for me, when you just kind of get rid of all the background and you suddenly see just the black and white. What I really like about sketching, of course, is that with the paintings, you've got an awful lot of preparation and time that's involved in those kind of pieces of work. Whereas sketching, I really like the thought that a sketch is something that you should be able to just do in a couple of hours, you know, or an hour, just when you want a bit of enjoyment or fun, just play with lines and see where they take you. So there's my basic shape. At this point, I'm going to go into the drawing with a pen. So what I tend to do, and it's probably a confidence thing as much as anything else, is I tend to start off with one of these 0.0s, and then I'll start to build up the intensity of some of those things a bit further on. So let's actually, I've just seen there's a sign here. This is the problem of trying to talk and draw at the same time. There's a sign here, and then we've got some kind of lights going on here as well. We'll just pop those in. Love these old coach lights that this building's got. There's a lot of things I won't include. So things like this kind of strange hanger that's going on there. Not quite sure what that's about. And then we'll have this street light about here. Love these old street lights. And I know that some people will find these drawings interesting. Other people may think that actually I should be, the right way to do it is to draw these things absolutely square. And the great thing about art and sketching is that everyone's got their own personal view on things, and it's all open to a degree of interpretation. I think, providing that the person who's doing it and the people who enjoy it are having a great time, then I don't think anything else really matters. Right, there we go. So that's the shape. So now what I'm going to do is go in with a pen to try and give the building a bit of density now. So this will come down here. And one of the things I always do is, when a building has any kind of foliage. So in this case, we've got these lovely plants that are all growing out of the top here, and I kind of love that. But so many times I've been caught out where I've drawn the front of the building, and then you put the foliage on after, and underneath you can see this kind of straight line, which I think always spoils things a little bit. So I'm gonna just draw the shape of that in now. So it gives me a bit of a sense as to where it is.
And those are the Etcher pens?
They are, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I really like these because I work on knot paper, so it's got a slight texture to it, and I really like that. But the trouble is, the pens don't always, the nibs of the pens don't always like the paper. They tend to wear quite quick, but these Etcher pens don't do that. And you know, it's just nice having them in this kind of set that you can then pull out whichever one you need at the time. And it's really easy to, instead of scrabbling around, you can find your way straight into the pens. Right, so that's the outer part of the building. That's it. Right, let's develop this roof. There's a kind of a box
And what
thing.
paper, what kind of paper are you using? Hot pressed, cold pressed, regular?
It's cold pressed watercolor paper. So I think they call it knot, which has got a slight texture to the whole paper. It gives it a bit of bite, which I prefer to paint on really, but I find this works really well for these sketches as well. So we'll bring that down like this. Right, so building's starting to take shape. I don't know. I mean, do you think that's got a bit of attitude now? Do you think it's starting to jump out the page?
Absolutely has personality.
I like to think that if the building looked at this picture, that it'd smile along with me. Right. And I'm just going over these guidelines that I created for the windows. And they tend to follow these straight lines.
We've added a link to our comment section for Jeff's mini workshop on April 10th. So if you're enjoying this, please sign up. We have a lot of fun and we go into a little more depth in the mini workshops.
Thank you for that, Tara. So here we go. We're just trying to build up these windows now. I love these old sash windows that we have seen so many of here.
We've got some concern over the bottom of your painting, of your sketch, and asking, shouldn't the bottom be wider? But if we look at your previous work with the exaggerations, the bottoms of your sketches tend to run smaller.
Yeah, well, for me, this is going to be tight, and I've done it quite deliberately because I know the building is known for being small. So I've tried to deliberately narrow that in really tight to give me this kind of more dynamic perspective. But that's a really fair question. I mean, you've got every opportunity to kind of take whichever route you want to take with it. I think, you know, this is going to be tight getting all these details in, but I think it will give it a bit of shape. We'll see as we go. We'll see as we go. I'll tell you what, while I'm just sketching in these windows, I'll ask people who are watching a question. A question about this old building, and I'll give you the opportunity. What I'll do is whoever gets the question right, or the nearest to the right answer, I will send them this original picture. So all you need to do is put in the chat a number, and I will tell you if Tara can call those numbers out to me. I'll tell you whether those numbers are too high or too low. And hopefully through that process, we should be able to find someone who gives the exact right number to the question I'm about to ask. And then that person will be sent this original drawing. So the question I'm going to ask you is this. This building is as I said many times, the smallest pub in Britain. And on one occasion back in the 1980s, they managed to get a large number of people in this space. It's as I said before, it's 15 feet by 7 feet. So how many people do you think they managed to fit inside this pub? So put your answer on a chat and send it. I'll just have a rough guess and I'll tell you whether you're getting close or not.
26.
26,
13.
much higher than that. Don't think social distancing on this one.
42.
No, more.
117.
Ah, that's getting closer, but actually that's too high.
All right, folks, 117 is too high. 100,
That's too low.
74,
That's too low.
102.
Oh, someone's Googled it. Excellent. Well done. That's the correct answer. So whoever said 102, if you can, if you just send a private message to Tara, she will then take your name, and I will, when I finish this drawing in the next, if I don't get to finish it today, in the next couple of days, I will send it off to you. And I hope you like it.
Stacey, if you can send us at Etcher your email address, we will contact you. You are the winner of this unique piece.
So all I'm doing now is I'm just blocking in these windows, which I know isn't. It's just the method by which I do it is just to create some shape, and we'll come back to those in just a moment. Now it's got a strange curve there, and then there's this kind of diagonal that goes up and down, up and down, up and down like this. Again, the benefit of having a building which is slightly an artistic version of the architecture, so not an architectural sketch, but more an artistic version of the building itself, is that you're able to then exaggerate certain parts if you really feel as if they can be exaggerated, just to kind of give you more of your own personal independent view of the building. So there's a kind of a line that goes around here. I'm settling into this now, guys, into my drawing. So forgive me if I was a little nervous at the start of this and I was jumping around a bit. But right, so let's get that.
You received some compliments in the fact that you're not acting nervous, so you're very confident in what you're drawing.
Okay, well, can I just say I'm hiding it well? Right. I've got to say though, Tara, the one thing that's been so good in the whole process of this has been everyone at Etcher, who are so encouraging and enthusiastic and friendly to make the process really simple. So thank you all for that.
That's great. I believe we've made Stacey's day. She's a bit
That's
over
good.
the moon.
Well done, Stacey. So that's got the draw. That's got the shape in. We've got the rest of this building is going to come in here.
Okay, we've hit our 30-minute mark. And I just want to remind everybody that our mini workshop is on April 10th. It's only $5.50, which is wickedly cheap. And once the event is over, within a couple of days, you receive that recording, and it's your recording for life. So, and also remember, Stacey said 102, which was the number that Jeff was looking for. So she's the winner of our piece. And the number contest is over.
Yeah, well done, Stacey. I might just have another one of those a bit later on. So just stand by. Now you see, I've kind of created something here which is not quite right. And whoever said before that, is it tight? It's tight because actually what's happened here is the shape of these windows and the shape of these windows, it should be slightly different in terms of width. But actually, if I look at that and do I think, well, am I still authentic to the piece? And does it really take anything away? Well, actually, it just makes it still look quite tight. And I really quite like that shape. And again, it's part of, for me personally, it's part of the freedom of just being able to create your own interpretation. I suppose when I start these types of drawings, I'm never really completely sure which way they're going to go. And I like that. I like that as part of the process.
Thank you, Kitty, for signing up for the mini workshop. We have a question here for you.
Yeah, go for it.
How often are you able to get out and sketch on location?
Oh wow, isn't that a lovely question? At the moment, like zero. At the moment in the UK, we're all kind of locked into our homes, so I've hardly been out at all. And I live in one of the most beautiful cities in England, but I haven't had a chance to do very much sketching. So it's something that I've got a plan for, and I've got a very good friend of mine actually who lives just about 400 meters from where I'm sat right now, and we're very good friends in terms of both enjoying artwork and painting and drawing. And we've got this plan to go out and start doing a lot more urban sketching this year, but we're just waiting for, I think, May the 12th or May the 17th, I think, might be the day when we're allowed to start getting out and doing some work actually outside, which I'm really looking forward to. Again, it's probably the same for everyone at the moment. You know, we're all in the same kind of situation, but
Hannah says she loves your style. It's like a caricature of a building. So much fun.
yeah, thank you very much. I try not to make it too. I try to keep some things I'm happy to distort, and other things I try to keep more accurate. But again, it's just a personal decision. You know, you can take it whichever way you really want to take it.
Everyone, if you are sketching along or sketching after, we would love to see your work.
Yeah.
Please tag us at hashtag Etcher Mini Workshops for a chance to win a $50 coupon code for Etcher supplies. You can also tag us on Facebook and Instagram when you're posting your art, demos, mini workshops. You're using our product and loving it. Just please go ahead and add us at hashtag Etcher Mini Workshop, and we'll keep watching you. And they do a lot on social media. They're very, very active, very responsive. There is a Facebook group as well, which is a private group. So once you're in there, you don't have to worry about your stuff being all over Facebook. It's a closed group. It's really well done.
Right. Well, I'm just coming to the end of the sketch now before I start painting. So this is the part I really like, when I can take the rubber and take off all of the pencil marks.
I have somebody who I have never done anything like this before. Always parallel, always vertical. This is great.
Yeah, it gives you a bit of freedom, you know, some real freedom to just try some things differently. And look at that. I mean, that is nothing like the shape of that original building, but I don't think it's too unattractive. You know, I think that's okay. So anyway, let's get on with painting now. I've got my kind of studio pack of paints here today, which I just need to squirt with a bit of water to liven them up a little bit. Now let's find some brushes. So the good thing with this building, it doesn't have a great deal of. It's nice to leave the white on the front because that's nice and bright. This particular reference photo has got the light just hitting the top, which I really like that. But I actually think, for the sake of the painting today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this half in light and this half in shade. And I've just noticed that I've actually forgotten to sketch in the bar, which looks like that. And it looks like what looks like a coffee machine or something sitting there. And then there's some things here that look like they're drinks dispensers.
While we're taking a breath here, we're going to drop the link to our survey. It takes just a couple of minutes. Please feel free to fill out that survey, give us some feedback. It keeps us going. Takes about 2 minutes.
Okay, so that's just giving me a bit of shame. Right, so I'm actually going to take a slightly thicker pen now. I'm going to go with a 0.5, and I'm going to just use the 0.5 down this edge just to make the building pop out a bit more. It's quite a good trick, actually, of being able to use a thicker pen on the building that you want to draw attention to, and then use a really thin pen for the buildings either side of it, and it helps to kind of really make the building that you want to emphasize jump out at you. And I'm sure if I was confident enough, I would probably just go straight in with these kind of pens at the start. But as a hobby artist, I'm still learning every day as to different ways of doing things. So that's it. Let's give them a bit of shape on there.
I know you're using cold press paper, but is it a particular brand that you are using?
Well, this is Winsor & Newton, which I've been using for a few months now, and I do like this paper because it gives you it's got some strength to it, which means it will take a fair amount of water. And by the same token, you've got one side of it which is quite rough, and the other side is much smoother. So if you choose to kind of go to one side or the other, you've actually got the paper which kind of suits whatever paper you prefer. I've had some accidents with sketchbooks in the past, as I said earlier, and I just tend to find that I'm knocking things over quite a bit as I spin them around. But so let's get some colour on now. This is the part I also enjoy a lot. So this is a bit of sap green I've got going on here with a bit of neutral tint, just to give it a bit of shape to it. And I'm just going to block in these big blocks of colour. And this is what I really like about sketching, in that because of the immediacy of it, you can really start to put colour on really quickly. I mean, when I'm doing watercolour, I find that I'm spending a lot of time drawing and trying to get things as accurate as I can. Whereas sketching is a real opportunity just to be a lot freer with everything. And I really like that.
We have another compliment for you. Thank you for allowing us the artistic freedom not to be so precise about perspective. I think this will help us with the challenges in these areas. Never thought of it before, which you and I discussed in our meeting, that permission not to have it be perfect, to let yourself be loose with things. Yeah. And I'm not known for being a loose painter, so actually being able to just have some fun and go in light, it's quite nice. So I'm putting the first layer on here, and all I'm doing is just giving it a very, very light wash, just to put down the first coat. Now, what will happen is I'll come back into this in a few minutes with a much darker version of this green that will enable me to then give it some depth and some shadow. But for the time being, I'm just getting a really light color on here. Okay, that's it. Much water on there. I know some people will take a kind of different view on color to a building, and some buildings they'll add kind of emotional style colors into it to give it a bit of shape. And I do like that. I mean, we're actually doing a piece of work at the moment in the art class I belong to that gives us a bit of color. At the moment, my style is to keep it as authentic as I can, but I think that possibly will change over time. Again, it's what happens when you're learning all the time and these sorts of things. Right. Let's just bring a bit of shape. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some shadow color on this right-hand side. And my absolute go-to shadow color at the moment is Daniel Smith's Moonglow. It's such a beautiful color. It's
it's a kind of a nice blend of a purpley bluey kind of color. Look at that. I just love the color of that. Putting plenty of water in this at the same time, but this will just, I'm not too worried about getting a bit of a bleed in the colors here, because I think it adds a bit of character.
So we've got a question for while you're painting and putting in the perspective into your windows. They want clarification that you still want to have a perspective taken into account when doing those things, or are you still allowing your own style to take off with it?
Well, kind of a bit of both, really. I mean, there are some paintings where I've kept the window lines absolutely spot on. But what I've tried to do is depending on which shape the building is taking, I try to bring the windows, take the windows the same kind of shape. So you can see, whilst they're sitting square on the building, they're still going with the perspective, which I think adds to the dynamic of the composition that I'm trying to achieve. All right, so that's got some shadow on that part of the building. I think I'm going to go, whilst that's drying, I'm just going to go back in with a bigger pen and start to block in some of these windows, because there's not a lot of light reaching these windows, so you just kind of block these in.
That's a bold move with the wet paper.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Tara. I've got a hairdryer next to me, but if you saw my picture at the start of this, you'll know that I haven't had much use of a hairdryer this century, but except for watercolor. But I find that the hairdryer just force dries things so fast that it sometimes doesn't always give me the effect I'm looking for.
Especially when you're working with a shadow and you're trying to allow the paper and the paint to do its own thing. The force of the air definitely shifts things.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the beauty of watercolor is that sometimes when you put different colors together is when they really start to create the nice kind of blends that you're looking to achieve.
We're all just taking in the moment now and watching you do.
Well, I'm finding this very relaxing, actually. I don't know about you guys. This is working for me. I mean, so I'll ask you another question, actually, while I'm doing this, and I need you. You can only answer this, actually, if you're on the live version of this. You can't answer any of these questions, of course, if you're watching this back later on in the day. But the question I'll ask you about this lovely old pub, and what I'll give you as a prize this time is whoever gets this question right, they can just say to me, here's a building I like, and I'll draw it, and then I'll post it on my Instagram account in the next few days. So whoever gets this question right can just say to me, right, here's a picture of the building I like, and I'll draw it next time. Next thing I draw will be that building. So the question is, in what year was there first a pub on the site of this place called the Nutshell? So just give us a year, and it's older than I am, I'll tell you that.
Oh, we're waiting for those answers to come through now. Who's Googling it?
Yeah.
Although I love the fact that it's called the Nutshell. That's adorable.
It is. It's a really nice little place. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of people in here at the moment, but it'll have a nice try to have some pavement.
1878.
Yeah. Actually, that's the first year. Whoever's Googled that, that's the first year that this particular pub was defined. So that's kind of half correct.
1825.
Yeah, a bit later than that.
1898.
Yeah, a bit earlier than that one. A bit earlier than that one. But not by much. I mean,
1876.
yeah, now you're getting really close. I think that one's close enough. That was the
That one's
first.
close enough?
Yeah, that's the first time that the Green King, who were the brewers of this particular pub, said that there was a pub like that on site. I'm sure that blocking in these windows is not the nice thing, the easiest thing to watch, but it's very relaxing. So anyone that's drawing along with this, I hope you're doing this with me. So whoever got that question right, can they think of a building that they might like me to draw, and I will have a good go at that. I'll put my own version of that on Instagram.
So whoever said 1876, you get to choose the next building that Jeff will recreate. And you can follow him on his social media, on Instagram. Oh, and that was from Hannah Crumley.
From Hannah. Okay, well done, Hannah.
The color Jeff used for the side of the building is Moon Glow. It's got some gradients to it. It's a purple, but it has some blues and yellows in the gradient.
Right. So I'm now going to put just drop some yellow into this building. And
which yellow are you using?
At the moment, I'm just using a cadmium yellow, but okay. I don't think. And then I'm just going to drop some green into it while it's still wet, just to give it some depth and some shape. I'm going to come back at this foliage again because I'm then going to use the pen to, after the paint has dried, to actually put some more shape into all of these little buildings, these little elements. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with a much darker green now, because I think this is probably, I'm having to go quite quick because of the time, but I'm hoping this is dry enough. Yes, it is, just to give me a bit of character and shape.
Is that the dark sap green?
It's the normal sap green I used before. I don't use a very wide palette actually, Tara. So it's the same green I had before, but I've just put a little bit of burnt sienna into it and a touch of cobalt blue, just to give it a bit more density. And we'll just. I tend to find if I put a really thick, this is more like the consistency of double cream actually, whereas the previous one was more a bit like semi-skimmed milk or something. So if I just put that really dark line in there, and I tend to just then run a wet paintbrush underneath of it and allow the paint to find its way down, and it gives, I don't know if you can see that, but it gives quite a nice effect of a shadow that's bleeding down from the top of the building like that.
And Hannah would like you to do Big Ben next.
Oh, Big Ben. Oh yeah, that's not going to be tough. Okay. All right, well, watch out for that. I'll try that next. That's quite good actually. I thought someone might say the Empire State or something with all those windows. Gosh, I'll be there for a very long time.
Don't forget to follow Jeff on his Instagram page. And we've got some questions if they can see your palette.
Yes, it's not the most attractive palette in the world, but there it is. So I tend to have developed over the course of the last kind of 12 months while I've been sketching this this palette, which kind of works for me with the subject I sketch. So there's a few browns up here, and then there's a brick red, which really works for the front of buildings. I've really got into this cobalt violet. Well, this might actually be manganese violet. It's a violet color. And you know, sometimes how you just go through phases where you always find a reason to put that color into everything, and it's not really there, but you just love it so much that you find yourself reaching for it. And I don't know what you'd call that. It's some kind of obsession that's making me reach for that color so often at the moment, especially in kind of grey slate roofs of buildings and that kind of thing. And I find myself reaching for that violet.
And we've got about 10 minutes left, but we can go over if we need to.
Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, clearly I'm doing this much quicker than I would normally paint. So it's, if you look at the finished version, it's going to look hopefully okay. So I'm just using some cobalt blue just to block in these windows that are catching a bit more light. I don't want these to go completely black, but we'll just put some cobalt blue into that.
Okay, don't forget to sign up for our mini workshop, which is April 10th. It is $5.50, and you have access to it for a lifetime afterwards, which is pretty good deal. We've also attached our survey. Please feel free to fill that out.
Right, I'm just going to pull some shadow down here now. Again, using the same procedure as before. I'm going to put the paint on quite thick. And if you can see that very well. And then I'm going to just bring a damp paintbrush to it and just enable that to just let that bleed its way down.
So the question we have here for you is, how long does it normally take you from start to finish on a piece?
A piece like this, no more than about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But some of them, the other pieces are a lot more complex. But for this type of piece, and again, that's what I find an enjoyable amount of time to be able to then do a sketch, you know, of an evening or during the day. It's a nice amount of time to work on. And there are some pieces that do take a long time, especially watercolor. Some of the watercolor paintings take me much longer. And what I'm going to do here is on the dark side of this lamp, I'm just going to put some really thick paint on, like that. And then I'm just going to use some fresh water just to let that bleed in. And the watercolor will actually do the rest, and it will create what looks like a nice shadow coming across there.
So we've got a question for you about the type of watercolor. Do you always use tubes, or do you use pan ever?
I tend to always use tubes. And I actually find that if you can get a palette that seals those tubes to keep them wet, it's quite a good it's quite a nice thing to have, because it enables you to just use them so much nice straight from the tube. They're always straight from when they're wet. They give you such an ability to be able to move them around and shape them a little bit more. Right, so this is just got there.
And do you know what you're going to be, have you decided on what you'll be painting for the mini workshop?
I have, yeah. I've there's one of the things that I really enjoy is on Instagram. There's quite a lot of these drawing challenges, which is such good fun, you know, where people will send a picture out and say, right, come on, everyone draw this and do it in your own style. And I really like that. And there is one particular lady who posts some really nice pictures around the kind of Warrington area. And so she's given me permission to use one of her pictures of a house. And actually, while that's drying, I'll just give you a sneak preview because whilst this building is tall and that kind of shape, I mean, this is the what I'm going to be doing in the mini workshop. Lovely house, but it's got a lot more detail to it, and it's got some real character to it. You've got a lot more roof tiles, you've got a lot of bricks and shapes and that kind of thing. And I don't know whether people will really find this quite enjoyable, because it's more of the normal kind of house that you might want to paint for a friend or a relative or that type of thing, or any kind of shape of house really. But what we're going to do is we're going to give it a bit of attitude and do something like this. And we can use people who join the mini workshop can actually either use this drawing or even can use their own picture and create something which has got a little bit of shape. And again, I'd like to thank Sketchpad on Tour for giving me permission for using that photo. So that's my mini workshop. I'm looking forward to that one because it will give us a bit more time to kind of talk through the process a bit better. Right, so that's now starting to take shape.
What size paintbrush are you using?
At the moment, I'm using a 4 and a 9. And what I've found is I should always use the biggest paintbrush that I always try to use, the biggest paintbrush that I can. Because I find that when I was first started out in painting, I was always using tiny paintbrushes and dibbing to try and get things right. I was so worried about getting things wrong that I wouldn't really go in with enough color. Whereas these larger paintbrushes, I think as we gain confidence, we do go for larger and larger brushes. Right, so that's got some shape on there. Let's just put a bit of shadow around this doorway.
How long did it take you to find your own style?
Now that is a superb question, because when I first started to paint, I don't know whether other people have felt this, but the amount of people that say, what's your style, or how do you paint? And you look at people, quite well-known artists on social media, or that have such a clear style to them. The friend I referred to earlier has got such a clear style to his work that you look at it and you know instantly that that's one of his paintings. And I didn't have that. The subjects that I'll cover are so vast in range. I mean, one day I'll be painting racehorses, the next day I'll be painting old trucks, the next day I'll be painting landscapes. So I found myself at the start worrying too much about what was my style, and it wasn't until I started to relax a bit more and just enable things to find their own way that I kind of developed this particular style of urban sketching, and it came from just allowing myself to just find its own way. I don't know if that's a good answer, but it's the absolute honest answer as far as I'm concerned. But it's just become more and more enjoyable once I started to see things in a certain way. Then I found that my style was gravitating towards it. And now what I find is having found a way of drawing that I like, and most importantly that I really enjoy, I'm now finding that I'm looking at buildings and I'm thinking, well, what could I do with that one? And that's that's something that I'm really looking forward to getting out. And when the person who asked the question about getting out and doing some outdoor sketches and things, that's exactly what I'm looking forward to now, because I'm seeing buildings in a slightly different way and thinking, well, actually I could do this type of thing with that, or I could certainly stretch this one in a slightly different way to make it look a bit more dynamic, But again, all the time keeping the integrity of the building intact.
So we've hit our 11 o'clock marker on the Eastern Standard Time. We have one more question, but before I ask that, are we nearly done with this piece?
Yes. Yes, we are. All I'm going to do is I'm going I'm going to just use a darker pen just to bring in some shadow now, to shadow, which I'm just touching in very lightly to give this foliage some shadow. And one of the things that I've found about foliage is if it looks like it's got a hard line like this, it looks a bit false. So I tend to just always bring those out just with a few little shapes to make them look as if they're leaving the building.
Oh, that's fun, those little extra lines. Have you ever put people into your pieces, and if so, how do you do that?
Well, the answer to that is no, I haven't yet.
There we go.
But I think I should. That's probably something I need to learn to do. But, well, being we haven't got a great deal of time, all I'm going to do is I'm going to get one large paintbrush and I'm going to take some shadow color and I'm just going to give that some shape at the bottom there. And
is that the moon glow?
That is moon glow, yeah.
Okay.
And you know, just because I can, I'm going to feed some of that purple in there. I told you, it always finds its way. Look, there you go. So look, I don't know if that's been quite a quick version of that drawing, but I hope you found that enjoyable. I hope you kind of enjoy the process, and if you have had a chance to draw or paint along with me, or you get a chance to do anything like this, or look at buildings in a slightly different way and just play with some of the lines, then please post them so that I can see the work. I'd love to see how you develop in those kind of pictures.
This was a lot of fun. There were some wonderful questions. I believe we're done. If you are interested, please sign up for the mini workshop. Jeff and I will be together again that day. Feel free to fill out our survey and shop the Etcher products. Like Jeff used the Etcher pens today. The paper is wonderful as well. I hope to see you all again soon. And we've enjoyed today. Thank you all very, very much. I will do a final full screen view so you can all say hello to Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.